Hi, and welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today I'm going to be talking to my friend Dave, who lives up in Niagara Falls, New York. I've been to Niagara Falls a couple of times and I love it up there, especially no disrespect, Dave, but the Canadian side is better. I love the views from the Canadian side. But Dave reached out to me in an email and he said, Dave, if you're ever in Niagara Falls, come on by. Let's do it. I'd love to tell you a little bit about my EV journey. And it's not like I'm up in Niagara Falls all that often. So I thought that this virtual kind of chat would be a good thing. So let's get into it. Let's meet Dave. I believe he's a kind of a Hyundai guy. Most recently, can't wait to hear his story and his EV journey. And thanks for joining us on another episode of Out of Spec Dave. Let's get into it. Okay, so Dave, welcome to an episode here, a virtual episode of Out of Spec Dave. Thanks again for reaching out. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Dave. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I had a busy day. It's never not a busy day in my life, Dave. So, but by the way, I do like your name, so I think we got that going in common. And I also think we have a lot in common with respect to Hyundais. You had told me that you thought you might have a pretty good story to share with some of our audience, and I wanted to kind of learn a little bit about what you're currently driving now, um, and I want to get into that. But tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do for a living, and where did you grow up? And have you always been a car guy, or is this our tech guy, or what's your situation, Dave?
Well, I've always been a tech guy, that's for sure. I was not a car guy at all. I was the kind of guy that a car is just meant to get me from point A to point B. Wasn't really interested in it. I had neighbors when I was growing up as a kid who were into cars like crazy. They raced at Lancaster Speedway. They would take me to Holland Speedway when I was a kid, but I just never really got into cars. I thought of them as just a tool to get me from point A to point B.
Right,
But then
right.
I started researching electric cars. I This was back in like 2017, 2018.
Oh, so
I
wait, so late. Like you think about this, the Model S came out in what 2012, and I mean, did that even catch your interest at all, Elon Musk and what was going on with Tesla back then?
Yeah, no, at the time I wasn't, I knew who Elon Musk was and what Tesla was all about,
Yeah.
but I figured those cars were just way too expensive for me. I really would like to drive something that didn't use oil because I didn't
Right.
want, I wanted money to go not to oil companies, but I wanted to go someplace else, right?
Uh-huh.
So I started researching it and I came along this guy named T. Boone Pickens.
Oh yeah.
And his plan, right, for to use natural gas vehicles as opposed to gas and the whole wind thing. So that kind of got me onto electric cars because I researched natural gas pumps here in Niagara Falls, and there's really none. So it's like, well, I can't have a natural gas car because there's no way to fuel it. So let's see what else there is.
So you're talking about natural gas powered cars. Now I've seen some natural gas powered have I seen natural gas powered buses? Is that
Yeah.
possible?
So I started researching it and I got really kind of excited about electric cars. The only thing that scared me was the range, right? Like everybody else, like when you're new to something and you're used to driving 400 miles on a full tank of gas. Now you're talking something that drives, oh, I don't know, 150, 100. I think Nissan Leaf was 158 was the most it could do before they came up with the plus version.
Right.
So, but I work from home a lot. At the time, this was just before the pandemic hit. Um, I used to work like 10 miles from home. So I figured, well, I could use an electric car. I drive
Yeah.
maybe 20, 30 miles a day. It'd be perfect for me. So
Yep.
that's how I jumped into a Nissan Leaf.
All right. So you got a 20. Did you buy the Nissan Leaf 2019 new?
Yes. Yeah. So um, there was a deal going on with National Grid where they would give you $5,000 off the price of a Nissan Leaf, in addition to your New York State rebate and your federal tax credit. So
Really?
I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, now I could definitely do it.
Wait, what
So
was that? What was that $5,000 from? I don't think I ever knew about that. How did I
it was
miss that? Of all the tax, I'm like the tax credit junkie. What are you kidding me? What was that?
it was the National Grid. It was like Go Green, uh, like rebate that they were sponsoring. Um, and they did it for a whole bunch of different vehicles too, not just the Leaf. They did a Tesla. They were doing
Really?
some BMWs. Yeah, depending on which one you bought, you would either get $5,000 or $3,000, or if it was a hybrid, you get a little bit less.
Now,
But
is that National Grid excuse me for my ignorance here. I know what the National Grid is, but is National Grid your electric company that you get your energy from up there?
yeah, yeah. So that's there
Oh,
are
okay.
electricity providers.
Okay, so
So
that's so like Con Ed in New York City, you got National
yeah,
Grid up there. So, all right, so it was a local incentive plan from your electrical, supply company, basically, is
yes,
what it
yeah,
was. Okay, wow, that's huge.
yeah. That really kind of like was the straw that broke my camel's back on in terms of wanting to spend the money. I was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Let's do it. And I thought, the funny thing is, I thought I did a ton of research and I knew what I was getting myself into, but as it turns out, I didn't know a lot. I was a total newbie, and
yeah,
I had to keep watching Kyle's videos to keep learning things because
right,
I had no idea that there was a difference between CHAdeMO and CCS in
right.
terms because I bought one with a fast charger, and I remember pulling up to a CCS charger, and I'm trying to plug the thing in, and
Yeah,
luckily one of the guys next to me goes, "Yeah, you want to use the other charging
yeah, right.
cable?"
I mean, it's that's not as bad as you remember that one video where the woman pulls up in a Tesla to a gas station and the guy was I don't know if you ever saw this video on
I
TikTok.
did.
It was like this woman, right? She must have borrowed the car or something. It was like, yeah, go fill it up with gas. And she's like trying to put the gas into the Tesla, and the guys are like, they were being such idiots too. They weren't even like they weren't helping her out. They were filming her and laughing. It was just
Yeah.
like, so and I will tell you this, Dave. Had I seen you doing that, I would have been there to help you. I would have gotten out of the car, as I'm sure most of our fans would have, and said, Dave, what are you doing? This is not a CCS car. This is a CHAdeMO. That's
Yeah, well,
funny.
you live and learn, and
So Dave, how long did you keep the Nissan Leaf for? Just out of curiosity, you got it in 2019.
2019, I kept it for about 6 months.
Wow, you're my kind of guy. I like that. That's beautiful. You kept it a long time. So
Yeah.
what happened? Was it the winter that you're like, hey, I need something with a longer range, or what was your motivation to get rid of that thing?
Yeah, it was a little bit of the range thing, right? So I took a little bit of a road trip to Ellicottville, New York, which is south of Buffalo. And it's about 70 miles, right? So the
Right.
Leaf has a range of 158. And again, this is in the winter, and I drive there, and I'm looking at my utilization, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to make it back home. I don't have enough range because of the cold weather, all the throughway driving, right? And thank goodness we stopped at a ski resort. That's where we're meeting up our friends, and they had they had a level 2 charger. So I plugged in
Really?
next to a Tesla, got it back up to about 80%, came back, moved it out so someone else could use it. And I'm just like, I need something with a little bit more range and a little
Right.
better styling. I mean, I love the Leaf. I got no problems with the Leaf. If I was just going to be running around town, I would use it.
Hmm.
But I just needed something with a little bit more, and I wanted something to look more like an SUV.
Right.
And that's what. Then I switched in June to the Kona 2019 Kona,
Right.
which I bought. There he is. I
Yep.
bought on like after watching Kyle's videos about it. Um, because I like the styling. Um, the 2019 model actually was the last model, I think, last and only model year where the battery is warranted for the life of the car.
Yes. Yes.
So that was another reason.
That was a crazy deal. I don't know if they didn't know what they were doing. They were like, we're gonna we're that was that car right there that I'm showing you. Was I think it was my second Kona. I think that was the fancy one. that Kyle road trip down to our Florida condo from Connecticut. And this was, I think this was like 3 years ago or something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're crazy, crazy, magically efficient cars. You know, Dave, the first one that I bought, I actually shipped it. I sold it to a guy in Guatemala, and then I bought this one here. So was getting the Kona a hard thing to get up by you in the dealerships up there?
No, it was super easy. I went into the dealer. I had a hard time getting rid of the. I had a harder time convincing my wife that we should switch to the Kona than getting the actual Kona. They had plenty of them on the lot for me when I was there, and that's the exact same color I have. I love that Galaxy Gray, I think they call it. Um,
Yeah,
so
I can't remember what they called it. That might have been the name. Yeah, it's a cool color though.
yeah, I love it. I mean, I love the car. It's super cool, and it suits all my needs. It gets me where I need to go. And again, it's just me driving. Both my kids, one of them is graduated from college with a full time job. The other
Uh-huh.
one's still in Wyoming. He'll be done at the end of next semester.
And
So,
your name is Dave, and
yep.
your son's name is Kyle? That's kinda weird, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And he's the one out in Wyoming, right?
Yeah, yeah. He's the
Oh,
one in
wow.
Wyoming.
So, wow, we got a lot in common. Not only Konas and Ioniq 5s, which I just gave away what your next car is, but, we both have sons named Kyle. Wow, that's something else.
Yeah, yeah. I always have to kind of tell my wife which Kyle I'm talking about because I talk about your son a lot
Oh,
because
really?
I love EVs, right? I love watching his videos, and I always have to make sure I say, my friend Kyle as opposed to my son Kyle, even
That's
though
funny.
me and your Kyle have never met. So
Yeah.
it's just
Well,
it's just funny.
no, that is funny. Yeah, so the Kona is just, life altering from the Nissan Leaf. And the one thing about the Kona that Kyle and I would always laugh, my Kyle, not yours, because I don't know your Kyle, but my Kyle and I, we would laugh because when it's wet out
Oh,
and you just, if it just freaking lights up the tires in the front, because this sucker's front wheel drive. And and that, and that was always putting the traction down was always a challenge because this thing's pretty quick. And then the other issue is, I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you come into a stop and you're about 3 miles an hour and you're kind of hard on the brakes and you might hit a little bump, and then the way that the regen transfers over to the friction brakes, it's as if the car gets confused for a second and it feels like it's coasting, and then it grabs. And do you experience that at all with your Kona?
I've never experienced that with the Kona.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe they've tuned it and changed it, but I had 2 of these things and they both did that, and it was a little bit disconcerting. There was this one intersection where every morning it would happen, and of course I would forget that it's gonna happen, and I would almost feel like I'm gonna glide right through the stop sign. But yeah, so that's good. And how's the car been treating you in the wintertime up in Niagara Falls, New York?
Well, it's not the best in the winter because I still have the stock tires on it. I'm going to
Yeah,
be replacing those this winter to get something a little bit better that's a little stickier, a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to get winter snow tires because in Niagara Falls, we get probably 40 to 50 inches less snow than the region gets just because of where we are located near Lake Erie.
right,
Um, and again, if we're going to do any major driving, I'm going to be taking the Ioniq 5 instead. I'll take
right.
that's my next car. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Ioniq 5 is, that is a classic car. And here I want to share this one. This is one of my favorite near and dear to me videos that this was such a crazy road trip that I took. Um, a lot of people were
with
kind of
my EV
giving
paired up
me
with this.
giving me garbage about this about this video when I plugged into the ice machine. Did you get a chance to watch that video, by the way?
I did, and it was totally hilarious. And I think it's classic that it says ice on the ice machine, and
Oh, I know.
you're
And
charging.
when I got there, I was scared. I thought I was going to run out, and I made a mistake. And I knew all I needed was a plug somewhere, but the
Mhm.
whole Marathon gas station was super dark, and there was this like ethereal light, and it was like ice machine. And I said, okay, let me see. Maybe there's a plug there. And sure enough, it was. And I wasn't even thinking about the acronym ICE as opposed to just like I need a plug to charge my car.
Yeah.
And that was just a funny time for me for sure.
Isn't it, after doing all the like high, DC fast charging, level 2 charging, it's amazing how slow regular old plug charging is. Like, right? Because I think if I remember correctly, you were there for about an hour and you barely got over a kilowatt, right?
Yeah,
Back to the car.
it was I was there a long time, and I don't know why it took so long. Someone told me that there were different settings on the charger, for the Ioniq 5, but I didn't wanna put it on the whatever it is, like the 12 amp, or
Mhm.
I think there's like 6, 10, or maybe I can't remember what they are, but I didn't wanna blow the circuit breaker, and so I
Yeah.
put it on the slowest speed, and yeah, it really took a long time to charge. I mean, crazy long time. But at least I was able to, um, continue on my journey. And what I learned on that trip, actually, there was a buffer. Here I am showing low EV battery warning, 5%. That car under it has about a 3 or 4% buffer below zero. Translation, somewhere between 8 and 10 miles. Some EVs, when they hit zero, it's like game over. They just stop.
Yeah.
This one's got sort of a pretty good buffer. And I don't know if you've ever gotten down that low. I tend to go pretty low in the pack, but I've never gone this low. I thought I was going to have to make an embarrassing phone call to Kyle, but I didn't. Luckily, I didn't.
That's funny. Yeah, that was a really good video, Dave. I enjoyed that one tremendously. It made me want to go out, and I got one of the scanners, the little OBD, and
Yes.
I'll plug that in and kind of keep an eye on things,
Yes.
and just to have more insight into the vehicle, because I want to know, like, is my battery okay in terms of its state of health?
Yes.
Because you
Absolutely.
really don't, the software in the car doesn't tell you anything like that. They just
So
say,
are you
okay,
using did you get the VPeak, OBD2 scanner, the same one that I
yeah,
have, or a different one? You got that
yeah,
one?
same one that you got, yeah.
And then do you use Car Scanner app as well?
Yeah, I went out and I bought their premium version. It was like, I
Oh,
don't know, it was
really?
like $3, yeah. For some reason, it stopped working, the free version.
Huh,
It kept telling me you have to buy it. So I'm like,
really?
okay. And I had like a $2 credit anyways. So I ended up paying like, I don't know, a dollar or two for it. And
Oh,
now
okay.
it's forever.
I
So
I may have done I may have paid the same. I don't even remember, but, I was just using it the other day. It works, in my wife's GV60 as well, which is basically the same car.
yeah.
But, it's like, "Oh, there's Bailey.
Really.
Oh, yeah, she needs a haircut right now. I gotta get her a haircut." So now your garage consists of what now for the whole family? What cars do you have in the fam?
So we have two EVs, and then we have a gas car. The gas car is my son Alex's car. That's his.
Right?
Um, he's got a Kona as well, 2020 Kona.
Oh, look at
Um,
you guys. You got
yeah,
one with tailpipes and one without. Okay.
it's so funny. We were never Hyundai people. We were always Honda people.
Right.
So we got rid of all our Hondas. I had an Odyssey, I had a CRV, I had a Civic. We got rid of all those, and now we're like, Hyundai people.
Right.
I shouldn't say Hyundai. I mean, I love electric cars, so I don't know, I could drive anything electric if you ask me. But I drive the Kona EV. That's
Mhm.
mine. Her name is Chloe. So we name our cars.
Right.
Um,
That's cool.
my,
I like that.
my wife has the Ioniq 5, and that's Gigi. Um,
Gigi. Okay.
yeah. So I absolutely love that car. I tried to talk her into getting the Ultimate, but she's like, no, I don't want to pay the extra $5,000 for a roof I can't even open. And I'm like, but there's so many other things that
Yeah, yeah.
are in it.
So
Because
did
I
you get
wanted the heads up.
did you get the SE or the SEL?
We went with the SEL.
Okay.
Yeah. So that middle,
Rear wheel drive or all wheel drive?
all-wheel drive.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yeah, they did not have any rear-wheel drive
Yeah,
cars coming in
I
this
know.
area.
Yeah.
Funny story though, a guy that lives, I was at like an EV show or event in Rochester, New York, and this guy from Canada happened to be there with his Ioniq 5, and he had a rear-wheel drive Ioniq 5, which was
Yeah.
surprising. I think in Canada you'd probably want all-wheel drive.
Well, the thing is you do get that 911 effect with the rear motor, which is 160 kilowatt. I think it's a 160 kilowatt motor in the rear, a lot of weight on the rear axle. And when you think about it, it's I'd rather have, if I had a choice of having an EV front wheel drive or an EV rear wheel drive, I would much rather have an EV rear wheel drive. Keep in mind that in Norway, they've been driving Tesla Model S's for years over there, and they get tons of snow. And so when a car accelerates, and you give it some give it the beans. What happens is it goes back and it puts pressure on the rear wheels. And as long as you have grip, then you're going to accelerate. And as far as braking goes, it doesn't matter if you're front wheel drive, all wheel drive, or rear wheel drive. Braking is all about tires. And so, whereas in the Kona, what happens is with a front wheel drive car, if these are the front wheels, you give it the beans and it goes up, and that's where it loses the traction. So the added range that you could get in the Ioniq 5, at least stated by the EPA, was considerably higher. Something that we've never really been able to figure out, because if you drive that Ioniq 5, if I'm not mistaken, in what do they call it? Not efficiency mode, eco mode.
Yeah.
Eco mode supposedly disconnects the front motor. And so it's not continuously spinning the front motor. So the only thing you're really doing is you're hauling around that extra weight in the front of that extra motor. But theoretically, you shouldn't get that much worse range with the all-wheel drive in eco mode on the Ioniq 5 or the EV6. Have you been doing pretty well with range in that car?
Yeah, we do pretty good. I've been watching that like when we drive on the throughway, and we have it in smart cruise control. That's the only time I ever see it disengage the front motor. Like if you're driving in regen level 0 through 3,
Are you in normal mode or eco mode when you're on
I'm
the
in
highway?
I'm in eco mode all the time.
You're
Yeah,
in eco mode all the time, really?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
So
that's interesting. And so when you get that little graphic that comes up and it shows where it's putting the power, when you're in eco mode, I don't care what regen level you're in, 0, 1, 2, 3, or smart eco or smart regen mode. I I'm pretty sure that shows that the front motors are disconnected. Now, if you really hit the
yeah,
accelerator, even in eco mode, it's going to connect up that front motor, and then it's going to provide propulsion.
because I remember that was a big thing with like when Kyle was doing his range test. It's like, okay, for all-wheel drive, you get 250-ish miles, but the rear-wheel drive, you get close to 300, and that
Yeah,
that that kind of bummed me out. At first, we were thinking about maybe getting the rear-wheel drive car, but you couldn't get them in this area, right?
I know.
They're, and I was
They're-
very fortunate. My dealer was great. He did not charge me over MSRP.
That's
Uh,
very good. Yeah,
and I mean, it was like the third car. Well, it was the second car that I was buying from him. So I think
right,
he would have been crazy because I would have like just walked out the door at that point. It's like, dude,
right. Well,
spend a ton of money here.
what color did you get? Did you go with the matte like I did?
No, we went with what is the, it's not,
Cyber
it's like
gray?
the grayish one. I think it's a cyber gray.
Cyber
Yeah.
gray.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was my favorite color, the cyber gray. But The thing is, I love that the seats with the red piping and that dolphin gray interior, whatever they call it, and you couldn't get that with the cyber gray, and so I ended up getting it with the shooting star matte paint, which actually was a lot easier to take care of than I thought. I
That's
was a little
cool.
scared, but look, I don't keep cars that long. I wasn't that worried about it, and that Dr. Beasley's kit was pretty good, so I didn't really worry too much about that. Um, there was that, but so what's your experience been? Your wife is driving the Ionic 5, so obviously she is much appreciative, I would imagine, of you letting, I don't want to say letting her drive. Maybe she's the one who bought it, but that's pretty cool. Because Kathy's driving the GV60 now, and once in a while she lets me take it out for a spin. She loves that car. She's just in love with that thing.
Well, she's really good about it because I took it on a road trip to Baltimore for work, right? So, and this was late April, and I'm thinking, oh, I'll be fine. I won't have to worry about the weather. It's April. That'll be a great little way to kind of test out, the charging along the
Right.
way. So wouldn't you know, we get a snowstorm. Like I drove through an entire snowstorm, 300 plus miles to
Oh,
Baltimore from Niagara Falls in the snow. It was just the charging was absolutely great. I had no problems charging my car the entire way. Just the snow and just the bad weather conditions made it a longer trip than it had to be. But I
right.
was super happy that I was able to charge up, and it charges like a beast.
Oh yeah.
It's so fast. And I remember stopping at this one Sheets, and I was parked next to a ID4, and they said, "Oh, we love your car. We're so jealous at how fast it charges."
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know that
Kyle,
too.
Alyssa's sister, McCall, she just took delivery today of an ID4 that was made in Chattanooga, and
Oh,
Kyle was all interested to see if it charges. They're still saying 135. The ID4s originally came out, they were 125 advertised, then they bumped them up to 135, but he's hearing they may be like 175, 180. So I think you'll see a test on that over the next few days. What kind of charging speeds do you get, and are you able to find EA 350s pretty easily?
yep. It's not too bad. I actually have two EA stations within probably a mile of each other. There's
Really?
yeah, there's a factory outlet mall in Niagara Falls, and then literally a mile from it is another EA station. The one in the outlet mall has not gone online yet,
Okay.
but that will be going on soon. So I have an EA charging station 5 minutes from my house. I mean, I never really use it because I just charge at home.
Right.
Um, but when I go there, it's usually pretty easy to get connected, and
Well, I
I'm
just want
getting.
to commend I want to commend you for not charging, because you got free charging with this car. And,
Yep.
my opinion is the free charging is for those that are passing through town, as opposed to, now it's a little bit of a debatable topic, because look, if the manufacturer is giving you an incentive to buy the car, why wouldn't you go and charge it over at EA for free? And I get that. But it's as the charging networks get more and more clogged, I think it's we have a lot of people over here in the north, well, the northeast. You're in the northeast as well, but down in the tri-state area, especially on Long Island with Tesla, that just you get a lot of these Uber guys now, and you get a lot of these Model 3 guys, and they're just a lot of them are just using it to charge fast, which is fine. But you get a bunch of people that just live 5 miles down the road, or just taking their ID4s, their Ionic 5s, or the free charging. It's a bit of a controversial topic, but I guess that's all right. How has the reliability been of EA for you? Has it worked pretty well?
Yeah, no, I've had no problems with it at all. I haven't had to do the switching of the stalls. It's like I go to a stall, I plug it in, and it just works.
There,
Whether
that's
it's a
good.
350 or 150. Yeah, I only had a problem in Canada at a EA Canada charging station. I didn't like I was plugged into a 350, and I didn't get. I think I got like around 170 in terms of like my highest charging rate. But still, I mean, it was like, okay, so it took me an extra couple minutes. I mean, I'm not gonna make
One
a big
now,
deal about it.
was that on a 150 you were getting 170?
No, it was a 350.
Oh, really? Because you know
Yeah.
what I oftentimes when I charge any of these EGMP cars on 150s, I'll get peak. It won't stay, but I've seen 170, 171, even on 150s, which is good. But of course, it has to be the right temperature. And the Ioniq 5, the 2022s don't have preconditioning, battery preconditioning. That is, although I hear the 2023s either are going to or do. I don't know for a fact. Kathy's GV60, my wife's GV60, does have preconditioning. It is a 2023, but the preconditioning on the battery for that car only heats up the battery pack. It doesn't cool it in the hot summertime,
Hmm.
unlike some of the others that are out there that'll do both cooling and also heating. So I would imagine the Ioniq 5 will replicate what the GV60 does, which for the most part is what's good. I can tell you that in the wintertime with my Ioniq 5, if I was if it was super cold out and I just pulled into an EA without warming up the battery pack after driving it or yo-yoing it, I would probably get in the 60, 65 kilowatts until it started to warm up. So significant issue in colder climates to not have that battery preconditioning.
I did notice that on a cold January day, like we just did a test. We were driving by an EA station, and I go, "Can we just go try and charge the car?" We were like, I think we had it a couple weeks. So my wife's like, "Yeah, sure, let's go ahead." I mean, I didn't really need to. I wasn't low in the pack. I just wanted to try it, right? And I was
Right,
excited. So
right.
I noticed that too. It's like, oh wow, it's not really going too fast. And I think I may have wrote it down, but I think you're right, like 60, 70 kilowatt. And I was like,
Yeah,
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 and it was super. It was a very, very cold day. So
yeah.
again, but when I was on my trip, I mean, it wasn't super cold when I made that trip from Niagara Falls to Baltimore. It was more like in the 30-ish degree temperature range.
Right.
So it wasn't that bitter near zero
You,
temp.
you know what's interesting though? What we found is that once the battery pack heats up, so if you're on a road trip and you're driving, um, it's a big mass of right. It's a big mass of metal and whatever it is that's in there. Once that gets warm and you're on the road trips, it's actually pretty good. It doesn't really, you'll start to even when it's cold out. Unlike the Leaf, which didn't have any kind of thermal, battery heating or cooling, it was just air cooled. That thing would
Yeah.
overheat. I know on a lot of road trips in the summertime, and then if you try and take it on a trip, you're pulling what 25, 30 kilowatts, maybe if
Yeah.
you're lucky. Um, well, listen, Dave, you've made a great transition. I love your choice of cars.
Right.
And I think it's amazing that, we're finding so many people that started off with the Leafs that are graduating to, newer technologies and all that. I noticed that you haven't had a Tesla, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm curious about like what your message to those that are thinking about perhaps taking the leap from whether a gas powered car or a diesel powered car. What are your thoughts about what kind of advice could you give could you give folks in that position?
Well, I would tell people that they should find someone they know who has an EV and talk to them, and don't go on the internet and necessarily go to Facebook and try to find things about EVs and then see what people say about it, because it's really a losing battle, because those face group posts tend to turn into one-sided political discussions about what they think about EVs, and then they just start throwing out more things that actually aren't true. Um, and it just
You're talking on Facebook in particular, you see
I,
this?
yes, I mean all the time. I mean, you'll see like the classic one is, if it takes, I have a friend who has an EV and it takes, 8 hours to charge it, and if it's like 30 cents a minute to charge it, they're paying three, some stupid
Yeah,
thing.
right,
And it's
right.
like, and you in those forums, you can't really have a discussion with people, because I mean, I was just shocked at how fast people put comments in those Facebook posts. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like every second a new comment's coming in. So you really can't have a dialogue with anyone to really get the real story. So I'd say
Right.
talk to someone who owns an EV. Search
Yeah.
for EV groups, dedicated EV groups on Facebook, and talk to people. I didn't mention this earlier, but I started a local chapter of the Electric Vehicle Association in Western New York because we don't have one,
Huh.
and
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of help people that have questions about EVs so that they can reach out to me and ask me like, what's my opinion on things? What do I feel? Would an EV be good for my kid as their first car? And it's not that it's rocket science, Dave, but there's some considerations you want to make and make sure that an EV is a good fit for you. I'm not saying everyone needs to drive an EV, but in some use cases, EVs are awesome and
Yeah. Like
better.
what I've been telling people recently is if you have two cars in the family and you have one car that can be a daily driver, and you have even a 110 in your garage. If you're only driving 30, 40 miles a day, you don't even need to invest in a level two in, a charging
Mhm.
system. And we're just now in our garage upgrading to a level two. The electricians came today, and we've been getting away with just having the 110 with two Tesla, with one Tesla and one CCS car. And but we're finding that when we go on trips and we come back and we're at a low state of charge, it's like, oh, okay, let me stop off at EA or let me stop off at Tesla so we have some range tomorrow morning. So I bit the bullet and said, all right, let me put in the level two. But for those people that don't want to road trip an electric vehicle, I think that's a great place for people to start. If you have any interest in an electric vehicle, I tell people go drive one,
Yeah.
because I don't, all this stuff about green and it's better for the environment. And, there's debates on that. There's all kinds of opinions. I just love the way these cars drive. They're so
Yeah.
freaking fast and smooth. And, they're quiet. And I love preconditioning in the morning. If your car's out and you turn up you heat up the cabin. And, I just love all these little features about them that, are good. But I think that's good advice to talk to someone that has an electric vehicle. I think that's wise advice for sure.
Yeah. Dave, the first EV I ever drove was like a 2014 Nissan Leaf, the real ugly ones that look like, bugs. And
That's
that
probably
had,
like the one that Kyle just bought, I think.
yeah, it's exactly. And it's
Right.
got the small battery, the 24 kilowatt
Yeah,
battery, right?
yeah,
So that thing was so fast. I mean, it's
yeah,
super light. It's got all that torque. I mean, it was buzzing around like a madman. And I'm like, I think I'm going to buy this car. And I didn't end up buying that one because I did a little research. I'm like, yeah, the battery's a little shot.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'll take my chances with something else. But that was, I mean, it was so much fun to drive. And again, I was never a car guy.
yeah.
I had no interest.
I ran into a guy in Maine, a month or so ago, and he had I think it was a 14 or a 15 Nissan Leaf, and he upgraded to a 2018 battery pack. And this guy
Yeah,
loves his car. He's
yeah.
totally into it. So, but it's really good. So if you had all the money in the world, which I'm not saying you don't, any car, it could be gas car, diesel car, what would that car be?
Oh, that's a tough one. Which one would it be? I think I would want to go with um, the Tesla Model S Plaid, but
Wow.
I'd get a regular steering wheel put in.
Yeah.
I'd swap out. I don't know. I'm not a big yoke fan. Not that I've ever driven a yoke, so I shouldn't
Yeah.
like say that. But I don't know. I would love to be able to have a car that I don't know. That car looks just so awesome, and
Yeah.
it's it it's not like a crazy supercar that you could pay maybe a million or two for
Right.
and go 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds or around 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I would just like to have that and just I don't know, cruise around
Yeah.
and that would be my I think my dream car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kyle's in the process of waiting for he's gonna swap out his yoke, for a round steering wheel because he's big into tracks and he's big into driving and drifting and,
Yeah.
and for me, I have the 2021 Model S refresh now with the yoke, and I didn't know if I would like it or not, and when I went out to see him in Colorado a few months ago, and I drove his Plaid, and I really liked the yoke. I thought the visibility was great. I was surprised, and I went into it thinking, "This is stupid."
Yeah.
And I liked it, and I've been driving it now for a while, and, we took a little trip this weekend, Kathy and I, out to see her dad on Long Island in the GV60, and I was like, "Wait a minute, this is weird, this round wheel," it's like anything else you get. I do worry though, Dave, in a panic situation because, we're all creatures of habit where you grab or, in a
Right.
there's muscle memory, and I wonder what would I really do in a panic situation? Would I grab for something that's not there perhaps? And it seems like they're solving a problem that doesn't exist with the yoke. It's just more of a little bit of a party trick. I wish they gave the choice as to which, whether or not you could go with the round or the, or the yoke itself. But yeah, that's good. What do you think about the Lucid the Lucid Air? What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? That's a pretty awesome car, super efficient. I mean, you can drive forever in it, right? I just cannot get over the clamshell trunk. I'm sorry. I
Yep.
think it's the ugliest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I dislike it more than I dislike the EQS.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
right?
Oh, wow.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, if someone gave me one, I'd be, oh, okay, thanks, I'll take it. But
Yeah.
um, it's not my favorite looking car.
And
So,
listen, I can't disagree. I'm just so fascinated with the technology under the hood and the fact that if you get especially a Grand Touring, you're talking about 560 miles of EPA rated range. And, Tom Malogny did a 70-mile-an-hour test and actually got 500 on the nose. Kyle got in the high 400s when he did his 70. So it's a ridiculously, efficient car and
yeah,
just the architecture. I'm excited to see what they do in the future with new designs and selling the skateboard out the back door to other manufacturers who are going to build. I don't know if you had a chance yet to check out Kyle's videos on the i7, the BMW, but he's pretty impressed with that car. I haven't actually had a chance to watch the videos yet that he put up, but I'm going to check them out. And I
yeah,
think he's like, Dad, this thing it's like eerily quiet. It's
yeah,
just you get in there and it's just a bank vault. The EQS, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea. The EQE SUV and the EQS SUV, I haven't seen them in person, but I might be interested in those. Those are kind of cool looking. But what we've got to do though is there's got to be sort of that the cheaper, if you will, alternatives because
yeah,
we're having a lot of fun. I took out I forget which car, the IX when I was in San Diego with him, and it's a hundred and something $1,000 car, and it was the M50 version, and it's great. But for the average Joe, for the masses, think about what the Leaf was, right? Think about what the Volt was, and you think
mhm.
about what the Nero and the Kona. By the way, you know what the name of my Kona was? I don't know if you know this, but I
No,
I called it the Dave Kona, right? Because I'm Dave Connor, so I'm like, yeah, this is the Dave Kona. That was its name. Um, I really love that car, and so the Bolts, the Neros, the Konas, these are all great cars, and I hope that the industry can get the price points down so that we can have more EVs in the hands of more and more people, so they can experience just the drivability and all the features that go with them. But at the same time, I was telling this to someone the other night on another one of these virtual Your EV journeys that what, if you don't really want to get an EV, don't, right? That's fine with
right,
me because there'll be fewer people at the Tesla superchargers and fewer people at the EA stations and the charge points, and that'll make it better from us. Listen, before we wrap this up, I'm gonna give you just, the mic for a minute or two. Anything you want to share with everyone that we haven't covered tonight?
I would love to see manufacturers come in with more affordable EVs, so that more people can get into them.
Yeah.
I think I was in Montreal for the NHL draft this year, and it was in downtown Montreal.
Uh-huh.
Um, and they're big into their EVs. But I imagine a day when you can go to a downtown area and almost all the vehicles are electric, and you don't have to. You're outside having lunch or dinner, and you don't have to smell diesel or
Yeah.
hear diesel. It's just you're out there, and I think if people start to see the benefits of the electric motor in transportation, I just think they're better. They're
Yeah.
more fun to drive for sure, and they're super efficient. So
Yeah.
I just
I'll leave you with this visual. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the New York City Marathon yesterday at all.
no.
But the thing I was watching was the police escorts as they're right in front of the leading. I mean, you got the most world class athletes in the world competing in this 26 and whatever point 3 mile, 26-mile race, and these cops are on their Harleys spewing out gas, escorting them through the city.
Yeah.
Now, next year, I think the New York Roadrunners Association, someone needs to give them a call and say, you know what? Maybe you put the cops on those zeros, right? On the zero bikes,
Yep.
because these people are breathing in that all those fumes for those huge miles, and that just was a very strange visual. But well, listen, Dave, thank you very much for reaching out, and for those of you who have stuck with us this entire. If you have an interesting story or a story that you want to share about your EV journey, please reach out to me. Ping me, Dave at outofspecstudios.com. Send me an email. And now that I've got this new technology, I don't care where you live, anywhere in the world. You can even live in Niagara Falls, New York, and I can get to you like that, and then go out and buy a lottery ticket and hopefully retire tomorrow. So, but Dave, thanks again for watching or for joining this episode of Out of Spec Dave, and thanks to all of you for sticking with us and watching this episode. Have a great evening now. Bye bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Steve. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, Dave. Have a great night.
You
Take
too.
care.
Thanks.